Let me ask you something honest. When was the last time you ended a day feeling truly done? Not exhausted, not just tired from scrolling or meetings or noise, but genuinely satisfied, like you moved the needle on something that actually mattered? For most people, that feeling is rare. And the reason isn't laziness. It isn't lack of talent. It isn't even lack of time. It's lack of structure. We live in a culture that celebrates busyness. Full calendars, packed schedules. The person who replies to emails at midnight is somehow admired. The one who skips lunch to finish a project is called dedicated. But here's what the science actually shows. Busyness and productivity are not the same thing. And confusing the two might be the most expensive mistake you ever make with your time. Today, we're going to look at what psychology and neuroscience actually tell us about how the human brain performs at its highest level, and why structuring your day isn't a productivity hack. It's a biological necessity. To understand why daily structure matters, you first need to understand what happens in its absence. The human brain, for all its complexity, operates on a very simple principle. It conserves energy wherever it can. Every decision you make, no matter how small, costs cognitive resources. Psychologists call this decision fatigue, and the research behind it is striking. In a now famous 2011 study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, researchers analyzed over 1,000 parole hearings in Israeli courts. They found that prisoners who appeared before the judge early in the morning were granted parole about 65% of the time. Those who appeared later in the day, after the judge had made dozens of decisions, were granted parole less than 10% of the time. Same cases, same judges, completely different outcomes, based purely on when in the day the decision was made. The judges weren't becoming cruel. They were becoming depleted. And a depleted brain defaults to the safest, easiest answer, which in a courtroom means denial. Now think about what this means for your own day. Every morning you wake up with a full reservoir of cognitive energy. And every unplanned moment, every "what should I do next?" every distraction, every reactive decision, drains that reservoir a little faster. By afternoon, many people aren't thinking clearly. They're not being creative. They're not solving problems well. They're running on cognitive fumes. And they wonder why they can't seem to get ahead. The answer is almost always the same. Not enough structure in the early hours. Too much mental energy spent on low-value decisions. And the most important work consistently pushed to the hours when the brain is least equipped to handle it. Here is something most productivity advice gets wrong. It tells you what to do. It rarely tells you when. But timing is everything. And your brain has a built-in performance schedule, whether you follow it or not. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman and chronobiology researcher Sachin Panda have both published extensively on the body's internal clock, the circadian rhythm. And what they found changes how we should think about daily planning entirely. In the first 1 to 3 hours after waking, cortisol, the brain's alertness hormone, reaches its natural daily peak. This isn't stress cortisol. This is focus cortisol. It sharpens attention, improves working memory, and enhances your ability to hold complex information in mind. This is your biological prime time. And what do most people do with it? They check their phone. They scroll through social media. They respond to messages. They consume information that someone else created, on someone else's schedule, for someone else's agenda. They spend their most neurologically valuable hours reacting instead of creating. The highest performers, across fields, across cultures, across decades of research, do something different. They protect those first hours. They use peak cortisol not for emails, not for meetings, not for other people's demands, but for their single most important cognitive task of the day. A writer writes. A strategist thinks. A researcher analyzes. A creator creates. Whatever requires your deepest, sharpest thinking, that is the task that belongs in your biological prime time. Every hour you delay it is an hour you're doing your most important work on a declining brain. After that peak window, typically in the late morning, there's a secondary window of social and analytical thinking that emerges. This is when collaboration, meetings, and communication become more natural. The brain has moved from deep focus to broader, more flexible processing. And then, in the early afternoon, typically between 1 and 3 p.m., most people experience a natural dip. Not because of lunch. Research shows this dip exists even in people who don't eat midday. It's a circadian trough. The brain genuinely wants to slow down. Fighting this trough rarely works. Working with it, by scheduling low-demand tasks, administrative work, or a short rest, is what separates those who sustain performance throughout the day from those who crash by 3 p.m. Late afternoon brings a second rise in energy, different in character from the morning. Reaction time improves. Physical performance peaks. And creative, associative thinking, the kind that connects distant ideas, becomes more accessible. This is an excellent window for brainstorming, reviewing, and light creative work. Understanding this rhythm doesn't require willpower. It requires scheduling that there's a deeper reason why structured days produce better outcomes than unstructured ones, and it has nothing to do with efficiency. It has to do with the nervous system. Clinical psychologist Dr. Jordan Peterson has written at length about the relationship between order and psychological stability. His argument, grounded in both evolutionary biology and clinical observation, is straightforward. Human beings feel most functional when they operate within predictable structures. This is not a weakness. It is our nature. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, impulse control, and executive function, works best when it isn't constantly surprised. When your day has predictable anchors, a consistent wake time, a clear morning sequence, defined work blocks, the prefrontal cortex can allocate its resources toward the task at hand rather than toward managing uncertainty. Unpredictability, by contrast, activates the amygdala, the brain's threat detection system. And a chronically activated amygdala produces chronic low-level anxiety, the kind that makes it hard to concentrate, the kind that sits beneath the surface of a busy day and makes everything feel slightly harder than it should be. Many people believe their anxiety comes from having too much to do, but research consistently shows that it more often comes from having too little structure around what they have to do. The tasks themselves aren't the problem. The absence of a clear container for those tasks is. This is why military organizations, elite athletic programs, and high-performance institutions all rely heavily on structured daily routines. Not to control people, but to free up cognitive and emotional resources by removing the need to constantly negotiate with the day. When you know what you're doing and when, before the day begins, you don't have to spend energy figuring it out in real time. That energy goes toward actually doing the work instead. So what does an optimally structured day actually look like? Research across productivity science, chronobiology, and behavioral psychology points toward a consistent framework. Not a rigid minute-by-minute schedule, but a three-block architecture that aligns human behavior with biological reality. Block 1. Deep work. Morning, 90 to 120 minutes. This is your non-negotiable. The one block that, if you protect nothing else in your day, you protect this. During peak cortisol, with all notifications off and no external demands, you work on your single most important task. Not your inbox, not your to-do list. The one thing that, if done well, would make the rest of your day feel like a success regardless of what else happened. Psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's research on flow, that state of deep, effortless absorption in a challenging task, shows that flow states almost never occur in reactive, distracted environments. They require uninterrupted focus, clear goals, and a difficulty level that just slightly exceeds your current skill. Structure is what creates the conditions for flow. Busyness destroys them. Block 2. Communication and collaboration, late morning to early afternoon. After your deep work block, open the gates. Emails, messages, meetings, calls, collaboration. This is not lowering your standards, it's matching your task to your biology. By this point in the day, your brain has shifted from narrow focus to broader social processing. It is genuinely better suited for communication than it was 2 hours ago. Batching your reactive tasks into a defined window also prevents them from colonizing the rest of your day. When you know you have a communication block coming, you stop feeling the compulsive pull to check every notification the moment it arrives. The anxiety of missing something decreases because you have a plan for handling it. Block 3. Review, reset, and lighter tasks, afternoon. The afternoon block is for consolidation. Review what was accomplished. Prepare for tomorrow. Handle administrative tasks. Do lighter creative or physical work. And critically, end the day at a defined time. Cal Newport, computer scientist and author of Deep Work, calls this a shutdown ritual. A deliberate, consistent end to the workday that signals to the brain that cognitive demands are over. His research shows that people who practice shutdown rituals sleep better, return to work the next day more focused, and experience significantly less work-related rumination in their personal time. The brain needs permission to stop. Without a clear ending, it keeps running background processes, reviewing unfinished tasks, planning, worrying, long into the evening. Structure isn't just about when you start. It's about when you stop. So here is what I want to leave you with. You don't need more time. You need a better relationship with the time you already have. Your brain has a rhythm. Your energy has a shape. Your attention has limits, and those limits can be respected or wasted, but they cannot be ignored. Structure is not a prison. It is the architecture of freedom, because when the important things have their place, everything else finds its place too. Start tomorrow, not with a perfect schedule, not with a complete overhaul of your life, just with one anchor. Pick the single most important task you want to accomplish. Assign it to your first clear hour of the day. Protect that hour like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. The day you learn to own your morning is the day you begin to own your life. If this changed the way you think about your day, leave a comment below. Tell me what your biggest time waster is. I read every single one. Subscribe to Turn Wiser and explore the Master Your Mind playlist, because this is just one piece of the system. Master your mind. Structure your day. Elevate your life.